News with no bias. News with no exemptions, including nothing but the truth. This is News Online. Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, Batangas. I am Milene Agno, bringing you a bittersweet set of news for today. For the headlines, a life-altering film surfaces online, shocks ME1201. Now and then, the role of sugar in today's contemporary life. Sweet danger, excessive sugar intake linked with fearing illnesses. Americans' deadly sugar addiction has reached epidemic level, specialist says. Sugar is the new tobacco. Experts calls for restriction to diminish obesity rate. A life-altering film surfaces online, shocks ME1201. Today, we would ask some students from ME1201 of their initial reaction from the sugar film. So let's start with Mr. John David Alvarez. Mr. Alvarez?
My initial reaction on the film was shock and surprise. I've never thought that we were deceived by some foods that were categorized as healthy, yet composed by sugar. The truth about different foods were exposed. Due to this consequence, a lot of people were fooled by the food that they intake and think that it is healthy.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Alvarez. Next would be Miss Angela Daniel Annie. Miss Annie?
After watching the film, I was shocked at how misleading the foods that people consider to be healthy are. Some people choose to purchase fruit juices as they are thought to be better than soft drinks. The documentary film, on the other hand, showed the comparison. Furthermore, as someone with a sweet tooth, I became curious about what I had eaten in the previous days, weeks, and so on. I tried to recall the foods I ate and imagine how they affected my body, similar to what happened in the film. I was also troubled about the adverse effects of sugary foods on the body, as it was discussed in the film that they can cause obesity, heart disease, and other health problems. As a result, the documentary's message serves as a warning to me before I eat such foods in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Annie. Next is Miss Mariven Amurao. Miss Mariven?
This movie seems so boring for me. This was my initial reaction when I started watching it because I'm much more into exciting and fictional stories and plot. However, upon continuing, I seemed to enjoy it and got the true meaning and the message of the film. This movie might seem light, boring, and too much context. It displays deeper information and thoughts that we as humans should do.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Amurao. Next, may I call on Mr. Kim Justin Atahar. Mr. Atahar?
At first, I thought the film would not be that much interesting. Yet I was wrong. It was filled with new surprising truths, specifically about sugar, and the negative effects of its excessive use, which I think most of the people doesn't know. Especially the food which we consider healthy, such as fruit juices and low-fat yogurt, which actually has an added sugar to enhance its flavor. Aside from being a person who likes to eat sweet stuffs, I also came to think of the foods I intake without being aware of its sugar content. Furthermore, this film led me to some substantial realizations. At this age, I should start fixing my lifestyle in terms of eating sugary foods for me to not regret it at the end. Lastly, I also believe that all of us should make it a habit to always check the content and nutritional value of the food we eat, especially the processed ones.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Atahar. Next would be Miss Kate Cyril Azucena. Miss Azucena?
This Australian movie looks strange from outside, but it cannot literally disregard the knowledge it provides. I assumed that it was an insane idea at first. However, I was surprised at the end of it. What they have done and what this movie showed with everyone. What restricts the movie seems to be that, considering the evidence and statistics presented by a variety of credible scientists, the main point is non-scientific by definition. The knowledge of how sugar functions and just how much we consume or see in the counter is packed with sugar added, and this is a good opportunity to make ourselves healthier.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Azucena. And then, the role of sugar in today's contemporary life. Did you find the information offered up in the film to be shocking, or were you aware of the role sugar plays in contemporary life? To answer this question, again, let's start with Miss Pauline Grace Balmes. Miss Balmes?
Personally, I am aware of the effects of sugar on the human body because most of our family members are diabetics, so I am not too shocked by the information of the film. But of course, there are also some information in the film that I'm not very aware of. So it seems that I have been able to increase my knowledge to protect my health as well as my family.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Balmes. Now, may I hear from you, Mr. Neil Ivan Behasa? Mr. Behasa?
There are lots of information that shocked me, like different cultures and countries have different ways of taking care of one's body. Also, the secret behind the reason why soda and drinks are sweet was revealed. It is because people get addicted to sweetness of it. But we should limit our sugar intake because it has too much calories that we should watch out for. Limiting the calories that we consume will result to good health of our body.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Behasa. Then, next would be Mr. Joshua Beloso. Mr. Beloso?
As someone who loves to eat sweets, I was shocked by the effect of the sugar we intake on our body. And as the movie go on, it made me cringe and I felt dissatisfied with the guy who just eats several tablespoons of sweets per day. I know that sweets make me happy, but in his study, I felt disgusted on the part that he literally eat teaspoons of table sugar and somehow put several amounts on his food. I know that the movie's role is to remind people to lessen the sweet intake due to its alarming effect on our body and remind us to gain our calories through eating healthy foods.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Beloso. Then last but definitely not the least is Miss Trixie Ann Camano. Miss Camano?
Absolutely yes. The information that the film offered was indeed shocking that it took a lot of realizations and understanding for it to register into my brain. Although in our normal life, once we heard the word sugar, all we can think that it is sweet. But by this film, I think I will start to be conscious on every food that I or the people in my surrounding intakes. I am also surprised that the film included information based on the personal experiences of people who suffered from contemporary food. It is well discussed that the quick effect of this on the physical health of a person is really evident, and it all really helped the audience to digest what the film wants to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Camano. For the next part of the program, we would have a one-on-one interview on the line with Miss Princess Inco, a first-year mechanical engineering student at Batangas State University. Sweet danger, excessive sugar intake linked with fearing illnesses. A new WHO guideline recommends adults and children to reduce their daily intake of free sugars to less than 10% of their total energy intake. A further reduction to below 5% or roughly 25 grams per day would provide additional health benefits. The recommendations are based on analysis of the latest scientific evidence. This evidence shows, first, that adults who consume less sugars have lower body weight, and second, that increasing the amount of sugar in a diet is associated with a weight increase. In addition, research shows that children with the highest intakes of sugar-sweetened drinks are more likely to be overweight or obese than children with a low intake of sugar-sweetened drinks. So the question associated with this is, what is your relationship to sugar? Do you know how much sugar do you consume on a daily basis? Do you consider yourself to be a healthy eater? Now let's ask Miss Princess Inco. Miss Inco, what are your insights about this? To be honest, sweets or foods with sugar in it is not my thing. My relationship to sugar is quite far from the average people who loves and likes it. This is due to the fact that most members of our family doesn't like sweets and not used to eating treats like chocolates. But as I watched the film, I was surprised on how a single food who I think in the first look does not contain sugar possesses it unknowingly. Furthermore, examples revealed startled me specifically on how a tablespoon of barbecue sauce can have 2 teaspoons of sugar. And personally, I love everything with barbecue flavor. And this led me to the idea that I may not like sugary foods, but it is everywhere. And I am consuming foods unconsciously that hides the sugar from its flavor. Nevertheless, I can still consider myself as a healthy eater for the reason that I am the type of person who digs every content of the food I take. Though I was surprised of some of the examples revealed from the documentary, I was careful enough to examine my consumption of food at this moment of time. However, sometimes I ingest unhealthy or more specifically junk food because of craving. Despite this, I can say that I am still a healthy eater for the intake of unhealthy foods was just a little part of all my food consumption, and I keep in mind of the saying, I am what I eat. Thank you very much, Miss Inko. Americans' deadly sugar addiction has reached epidemic level, specialist says. Sugars and other sweeteners are the main ingredient in some of America's favorite drinks and foods, and they've become ingrained in the American diet considering the average American consumes about 20 teaspoons or 80 grams of sugar a day. The sweet stuff is an ubiquitous source of calories in the Western diet. However, now experts argue sweeteners are contributors to major diseases. The human body wasn't designed to process these levels of sweeteners, as evident by the rising tide of diseases associated with them. So, Miss Inko, the question for this is, why do you believe Americans have such disproportionately unbalanced relationship to sugar as compared to the rest of the world? What is about the American culture of life that feeds the unhealthy consumption of sweet stuffs? Personally, I believe that the disproportional and unbalanced diet of Americans in terms of sugar has something to do with how they controlled the past innovation of their technology compared to the rest of the world. As stated in the film, the world doesn't rely on and use as much sugar in the past. However, as time passes by, humans made inventions and discoveries that has made the method of extracting sugar from sugar canes, beets, and other sources a lot easier and faster. Then, it became widely used to food processing industry, which leads to this current scenario where almost all products in a grocery store have sugar in it. And worse, some have really high content of sugar which contributes to unhealthy diet and other chronic illnesses. In a sense, sugar is the number one food additive which makes way to unlikely food like bread, crackers, biscuits, fruit juices, flavored yogurt, and many more. In my perspective, this could somehow reflect the negative side of technology when it is abused. My point here is, once in our history, we were very happy of the fact that sugar can easily be incorporated to our food. We felt the light of that sweet taste to the point where humans, especially Americans, became addicted to it, thus resulting to a lot of health issues. As we can see, their food and drinks have sugar and other sweeteners as the main ingredient, which have been ingrained to their diet in years now. Another factor that I am eyeing to is the truth that Americans have incorporated or normalized their dependence to processed food. According to my research, Ronai 2018 stated that more than 60% of American diet consists of highly processed food with various combinations of sugar, salt, oil, and additives. Consequently, the scarier thing is, aside from junk foods and frozen diners, many innocent-looking kitchen staples do as worse. Overall, it can easily be concluded that not only Americans, yet also the whole world should eradicate the overuse of sugar in the food industry to lessen people's risk and persisting health diseases and concerns. Thank you very much, Miss Inko. Sugar is the new tobacco. Experts calls for restriction to diminish obesity rate. According to the World Health Organization, taxation on sugary drinks is an effective intervention to reduce sugar consumption. Evidence shows that a tax on sugary drinks that rises prices by 20% can lead to a reduction in consumption of around 20%, thus preventing obesity and diabetes. Lastly, Ms. Hinko, can you discuss us the notion that sugar is the new tobacco? Do you believe that sugar should be taxed as cigarettes and other nicotine products are today? With people's addiction to sugary food and the so-called hidden sugars from processed food, sugar is now being entitled as the new tobacco due to the health risks that it brings to the table. Just as much as cigarette causes lung and respiratory illness, sugar can also bring a lot of threats like obesity, cardiovascular diseases, and liver damage. Furthermore, sugar and tobacco are the same in the aspect where people are unconsciously in habit or obsessive of consuming. In addition, this may not be an obvious thing, but both have an impact on our brain and how we perceive things, which also affects our lifestyle. For instance, when a smoker became really addicted to cigarettes, the brain of the person would always send a signal that would urge him or her to purchase a cigarette. Comparing it to sugar, it was also mentioned in the documentary that if a person has embraced a high sugar diet, his mindset would always be to eat sweet food uncontrollably. Both situations don't only lead to health dilemmas, yet also to financial issues because there are circumstances where money is allotted to cigarette or sugary food instead of buying one's essential needs. On the other side of the token, on the other side of the token, if I were to be asked of the topic that sugar should also be taxed as cigarettes or other nicotine products, I would say no. Even though both possess similarities in terms of having negative effects to human health, I can also say that they're on a different page. Sugar, when taken appropriately, also provides us benefits as a source of energy for the day. On the other hand, I firmly believe that cigarettes don't have any health advantages aside from the feeling of satisfaction that it lends to the user. With this, it can be justified that despite sharing congruity with each other, sugar and cigarette are still distinct, which is why they should also be treated disparately. For me, sugar itself is not the devil in the cupboard. It is good when taken moderately. However, as an exemption, if sugar would be taxed, I believe that it should only be on soft drinks, sugary drinks, junk foods, and other unhealthy food products. With all of this mentioned, I think the world should start changing food processing systems. It would be better if processed food would have lesser sugar intake. Furthermore, it would be best if more videos like what we have watched would surface online to provide awareness and open the eyes of the people who are intentionally or unintentionally addicted to sugar. In this age, where information can travel really fast, I trust that if more people would agree and support such advocacy, then it is still not late for us. Finally, I greatly hope that we would still bring back the state of the world where everyone is healthy. Let's not focus on things that only makes us worse. We should focus on the things that makes us the best because health is real wealth. These are the latest news we've gathered for today. April 8, 2021. I am Eileen Agno. This is News Online.